Today, we've seen a side proposition who wants to undermine the last remaining pillar of legitimacy in our democracy. We've seen a side proposition who tells you that teachers and labor union leaders are more qualified to make decisions for our country than people and politicians who have worked their entire lives to make decisions for our country. Ladies and gentlemen, we tell you on the side of the House that this assumption is fundamentally false. It's why I've never been so proud to oppose this motion. Okay, so as your first speaker on side opposition, I'm going to be doing a couple of things for you. Firstly, I'm going to be dealing with the case that side proposition tried to bring to you today. Then I'm going to be going into our first two substantive arguments on this side of the House. Firstly, I'm going to talk to you about the nature of the House of Commons, what exactly this means. Secondly, I'm going to tell you about how this is injustice to the people running and to the population. Thirdly, my partner Kevin is going to talk to you about how this actually creates inaccurate representation in the House of Commons. Before doing any of that, let's just get into some rebuttal. Okay, so Min came up to here today, and she told you that there's a need for this resolution. She told you that there was a need for this resolution because these workers are a part of our population. She told you that because these bills affect these workers, that we should give them seats in the House of Commons. Ladies and gentlemen, do you know who these bills affect? They affect our population. Who do we pick our MPs from? We pick them from our population. We tell you that the best representation of our population are people picked from our population. Because these MPs picked are people that don't just represent teachers, that aren't just representative of nurses, that aren't just representative of doctors. They represent all of these people's values, and that's why we think MPs are so important, not just specific major national labor union representatives. Secondly, they told you this idea of perspective and how, right now, currently, in the House of Commons, politicians and people who have studied the democracy and the governing of Canada their entire life are less qualified to represent us than teachers, than major national labor union workers. We tell you this is simply preposterous, right? We tell you that someone who's worked their entire life, that's dedicated their entire life to bettering a certain region and to representing a certain region of the population is absolutely more qualified than a major national labor union to represent the interests of their people. We tell you again, MPs represent different masses of the population, everyone collectively. We think this is much more valuable than a major national labor union who's representing a certain segregated part of the population. Okay, so now that I've dealt with their case, let's just get into our contentions on this side of the House. And firstly, I'm going to be talking to you about the nature of the House of Commons. Okay, so what exactly is the House of Commons? What exactly is the legislature? We take the House of Commons as a representation of our people. It's a place where we vote and discuss bills on a variety of different things. Not just major national labor union laws, ladies and gentlemen, we also discuss things like national security, right? We do discuss things like education, but it's so much more than that, right? Fundamentally, since we can't get every single person across Canada to debate bills and legislatives, we have the House of Commons to act as our representative and a way for us to get an equal perspective on things. As Canadians, we pride ourselves on this last arm of our democratic purpose. Every other branch of the government is elected. We think we need to retain this legitimacy. Why exactly does this resolution undermine this? No thank you at this time. Firstly, the point of the House of Commons is that we vote for these people. That's how they're a representation of us, right? When you're taking away 10% of our population, that's around 20 people in our House of Commons. You're taking away this many people that could better represent our people, right? You're shafting in people that we didn't actually vote for. We think this is fundamentally flawed. We think we should be able to vote in our democratic society for the people who we want to be representing us, right? Secondly, this resolution put representatives of major national labor unions in this discussion zone. And we think this is flawed for a couple of reasons. Labor union issues are discussed in labor union negotiations. We don't think we should bring this to a central point like the House of Commons, where a variety of different issues are being discussed, right? We think this is completely the wrong context. I'll take you in a minute. We think that if the House of Commons was only dealing with labor union issues, then maybe this would be justified under some magical world. But that's not what the House of Commons is, ladies and gentlemen. We have things like labor union forums to deal with labor union issues. We don't think they have a need to be a part of our integral body that lastly represents our democracy. We do not agree.
Okay, in the status quo, labor unions are largely heard on the smaller scale. Wouldn't you agree that this resolution would allow for the upholding of the rights of the majority of our population?
Okay, so first of all, we think that the majority of our population can be represented by MPs, because the majority of our population votes for the majority of our MPs, right? And these MPs, in order to get elected, have to listen to these people's rights. We don't think this really makes any sense, because while people are also part of labor unions, no thank you, we also have to recognize that they're part of our population, and our population is the one who's going to be voting for these. We're not saying that labor union workers can't vote for their MPs. This is exactly what happens. They vote for everyone. This is how we get an accurate representation, right? Labor unions simply don't have a place in the legislature. All right, secondly, I'm going to be getting into why this is an injustice to the people running and to the actors. All right, 2 hours. First, we think this is unjustified to the politician who's now been left out of the race because they're not the CEO, because they're not the leader of a national labor union, right? We think this is extremely detrimental. We think that when a politician has worked their entire life to get to this position, it's unjustified just to leave them out and to say, no, sorry, you can't make it this year. You got enough votes, but we have to give a seat to a major national labor union, right? We think this is completely unjustified. Secondly, with saying to the population that has voted for these people, this person, and is counting on them to represent us, we think it's extremely unfair to let this population go underrepresented because of this resolution. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we think it's because you'd rather live in a world where you get equal and accurate democracies on our side of the house. It's because we think you'd rather live in a world where we represent each and every part of the population, not just the major national labor unions. It's because of all of this that I've never been prouder of. Thank you.